Hi, I'm Shawn Carlson with Blackmagic Design, and I'd like to thank Keycode for having me here to discuss a little bit about what we can do in DaVinci Resolve. The current version is 18.6.5, and while I'm going to be showing a combination of features that are specific to free and or paid versions of Resolve, just understand that there is a free version that you can download that is, it has some limitations from the paid version, obviously, but is quite unlimited in, real world uses. There are a lot of features built into Resolve, and I just want to touch on a handful of them now very briefly so that we can, get you some familiarity with them. You may not be an expert on all of these areas right now, but just to help understand how Resolve works. Because as I said, we're these pages organized at the bottom in a sort of a workflow ecosystem. So next in line would be Fusion. Fusion is a 3D VFX compositing software. And as I click into it, you'll know that I'm exactly where I was when I left this frame, on exactly the same frame with this source media. And the source media now identifies exactly the resolution of the source media. So that's a difference between the way Fusion handles media in scaling and the way Resolve does, because Fusion always wants to see the original media. So just look here at the bottom, I have 3 dots. You're looking at dot number 2, viewer number 2. Dot number 1 would be viewer number 1. The third dot is to my video I/O. So that goes out to my confidence monitor, my grading monitor. And this tool set is deep and vast, and you'll find the same functions here for media pool access. You'll see your effects are listed here. If I click on clips, that actually shows me a thumbnail clip view of every clip that's now in my project, because in Fusion, every clip becomes a VFX comp, and it's simply engaged when you move to Fusion while your playhead is over that clip. Or you can jump from here in between clips that you want to work with. Some interesting things to note about this, as you can see, the buttons for all the frequently used tools are here. I tend to use the shortcut, which is Shift Spacebar, and Shift Spacebar will bring up a quick select tool option. So you just start filtering in, like image plane, 3D, right? So image plane 3D, might as well show it. If we take the output of our node and we drag it over the node itself that I've just added, we can basically view this as an image plane in 3D, but we don't have a viewer selected. So let's just go ahead and show you viewer 1. Now, I've put this into 3D space, and I'm using a combination of my 3 buttons on my mouse to actually dolly around in this 3D space. But what I needed to show about this is that this is an X, Y, and Z full ground plane 3D view of this element. Now, it's just in a 3D environment. Now, that's completely separate. As you can see, this pipe actually connects to media out. That's important because as I head back to edit page, there's nothing that's processed on this. The Fusion page is just basically one big, work pad or art pad to decide where you're going to create your work. Once you pipe this out to, say, the media output, that's when it returns back to the edit page. So you won't see the result of this work until it goes back down to the media out. It's just almost the same way, if you're familiar with the color page, how the nodes in the color page work. So let's go back to the edit page so you can see that nothing's changing in here, right? In fact, I'm just going to zoom into this view, and I think it might be important to switch us back to full HD or something from this point, okay? And then where we were in the Fusion page, right? And then we're gonna move one page over to the color page. Now the color page shows us this clip thumbnail again view, because in the color page, everything is a single shot. So we're working on one shot or one clip at a time. We can, of course, create keyframes with those corrections. Those corrections are over here in this node flow. So much like I showed you how things connect from, the RGB to the RGB in, from the RGB out to the media out. In Fusion page, that's happening here in the color page as well. Only everything that happens in this node and beyond is affecting the metadata of this clip. So if I were to show, say, the scopes view and just do a little color boost on this and a little color contrast, and then take the shadows down just a hair, right? You can see that all the adjustments that I've made to this clip are indicated by the rainbow ring around the clip number, the fact that there's now a grade, and if I hover, it'll tell you a primary balance and a log grade on this clip. And you saw the scopes actually move to indicate the change in the pixel values. So in this view, you can see we have a timeline, 1, 2, 3 tracks visible. Disabling tracks for working in this view is one way to do it. Also, if they happen to be composited atop the other, you can unmix. So in this case, that's a clip above a clip. Unmix might show the transparency between it in some cases. We're looking at only an RGB pipe here. The effects that we might add to this in the color page on the node flow include these Resolve effects. So I just opened up the effects panel and Resolve effects blur and color. As I scroll, you can see all of the Resolve effects that are included. Remember, the studio version includes all of these. There's about 2/3 of these that'll be unlocked to the free version as well. And you'll find that things like face refinement, the neural engine, the relight tool, the depth map, those are going to be limited by the studio version of Resolve as well. But again, the studio version of Resolve is only $295, and it's essentially a permanent license. So, and it's floating. In fact, when you go to the help menu, you can see deactivate license. So if you've activated with a license, you can deactivate and reactivate it on another machine. It allows you the flexibility to do that. Also, if you find that maybe you activated on a machine and then the machine broke, or you sold it, or you turned it back in for a different machine, and you forgot to deactivate, there would be a way for you to reactivate your license on the new machine and turn off the activation for the old machine. So it's a very flexible activation code system. It even allows you to have 2 systems running at the same time on your activation code. So you'll be able to use 2 machines, at the same time with your license. And then next year, or next month or tomorrow, whenever the next version of Resolve comes out, it's going to be available to you to download and be activated on your license. So very reasonable. We're not going to ask you for that $295 again next month or next year. So the color page has a tremendous amount of tools, including the ability to preview maybe looks or LUTs that you have, for your workflows. Now, what you've been noticing here is that I built this look without a LUT, but of course you can add LUTs to clips. You can add LUTs here. You can add them from the media pool. You can add them in the node flow. You can add them here, add a LUT to the node itself. In fact, some people would prefer, instead of just directly creating the grade in this way, they might add LUTs to transform specifically in between formats. So if you're in that camp and you're familiar with Resolve, you already know that workflow probably, and if not, you'll have to keep learning to get to that level. But we do offer training on our website, so you can get to our website, go to the Resolve mini site and click on training. Scroll down, you'll find that there are hours and hours and hours of video training and sample projects, as well as fully downloadable PDF books with our official training. I would suggest you start with the beginning. So while I've spent a lot of time discussing a bunch of different things, and I haven't really shown you some beautiful features yet, I do want to go over the fact that this is also a full digital audio workstation. Not only do we have the audio effects built in, but every one of these tracks has track dynamics, and track dynamics could include things like, well, in this case, this is an interview, so we know that there's a lot of voiceover. And on the audio 1 track, which I've got selected, right, Dynamics Audio 1, I might want to automatically duck my music track while the interview bytes are talking. So if I enable the compressor and adjust my threshold and my ratio, maybe my attack and release timing, right, for how aggressively it ducks, then I would send this, right, to the side chain, choose my music track here, and open Dynamics on music track, A4, okay, and then I would choose to listen, enable my compressor and listen. Now, in this case, I've already dropped it 36 dB so that as I play over these interview bytes, right, the audio, the music is at a certain level, and then the music would allow the voiceover to cut through by dipping the level automatically as it finds that they're competing. But this is how you would set it. So there's a number of features that you can do there with the compressor. The EQ is per track, 6-band EQ per track. And in the inspector, any of these clips, again, the inspector is a unifying element across all pages. In the inspector, you'll find you also have a 4-band EQ. So you have 4-band EQ across each clip, a 6-band EQ here across every track. Okay, and we're doing a direct or a fixed bus right now, but I have flex busing enabled, so this will actually show me the ability to see buses separately. Like if I were to enable the automation tools, you can see the automation tools are available for writing faders. If you're into digital audio workstation work and this makes sense to you, then you'll automatically recognize what these tools will do. I'm not going to spend any more time really demonstrating how they work right now. When we move through this workflow, we get to the deliver page. And in the deliver page, you'll find that one of the primary features that differs between, say, the free version of Resolve and the studio paid version of Resolve is based on that resolution that we saw earlier. We can go up to 3840 by 2160 at 60 frames per second. So I could render out this in the free version, up to 60. In this case, I only have a 24 or 25 timeline, so I won't be able to do that from this timeline. But when I get to the studio version, I have the ability to do all these non-traditional outputs as well as custom resolution. And I mean, it's capable of custom resolutions of 32K in various sizes, depending on the graphics processing capability your system has. And that's one of the other big feature differences between the free and the paid studio version is in the system side. When you're looking at memory and GPU, the free version is limited to a single GPU to work with. So in your case, and like mine on the M1 Max laptop, I have a single GPU and that works just fine. However, if I had a tower machine and I wanted to stack multiple GPUs, I could actually engage multiple GPUs on the studio version. The other thing that it allows is in the decode options, I can use the GPU for Blackmagic Raw as well as decoding H.265 and 264, which is really useful if you have a lot of that in your workflow for cutting, because everyone knows that sometimes those high compression formats can be really difficult to play back. So decoding with hardware is an option you get in the studio version, as well as all 100 plus Resolve effects. But also, in addition to that, we have some advanced deliverables. Things that you're not going to get in the free version include the studio version's ability to export directly to, say, a Netflix IMF package. Or if we were to just go to generic IMF because we wanted to switch that to DCP, we can create generic unencrypted DCP packages from Resolve directly as well to be previewed and played back. In fact, IMF and DCP packages themselves can be imported as source. And in the case of an IMF that has a comp playlist or a DCP that also might have an XML, you can create a timeline from that imported DCP or IMF and then make changes to it and export a supplemental IMF. And that includes the ability to do things like advanced settings where we've got Dolby Vision enabled and other level 1 type Dolby Vision metadata that we can include in Resolve. If you have a Dolby Vision license, you'll find that you can enable your license and load its configuration here in the file menu. Same with a separate Fraunhofer Easy DCP license. Some people work with this as well because it manages the key delivery for encryption. But up here you can see all of the defaults, including some round trips for workflows that include going back to different NLEs or other software. And then we also have the ability now, if I just move back to the edit page quickly so I can see a timeline, we also have the ability now in the timeline submenu itself, right-click timelines, to just export timelines directly from here. And exporting a timeline directly, say, as this conservation film company, I can export the easiest format to work with another DaVinci Resolve project is a DRT, DaVinci Resolve Timeline. Now, you can see all the other formats that we support, including the ability to do something called an OTIO, which is relatively new and might be of interest to a lot of you. OTIO is like a third-party exchange format that promises to have greater universal support, say, than what functions you might get from an XML import. And OTIOZ would include a zipped bundle, including all of the media files that are there. So that's kind of the most important aspect, I guess, of the new flexibility for OTIO is that it's an open timeline IO file that promises greater compatibility with other third parties that support that. I know that the people at Autodesk were very happy that that was a function that we were including as well for workflows that include those kinds of additional third-party things. Some of the beautiful features that I absolutely wanted to show before we go, just so that I can briefly get through what we're doing here, and you can see some of the power inside Resolve. These are identified, right? So you can see this is a magic mask that I've done, and you can see where the mask is on and where the mask is off because I haven't tracked the rest of the mask. But basically, I tracked the green and said, yes, make all of that green. And you can see that it's able to find the green area and then track all of that. I would have to track it forward. So let's move to the color page to see where I'm actually doing that work. There's my mask. Okay, so this clip selected. Let me go now to the Magic Mask tools, right? As I hover over this tool area, it shows you what's active. So I go to Magic Mask and you can see I've got this one object tracked, this one selection. Here, please do this part, right? And if I were to choose tracking it forward, well, the Magic Mask is going to start chunking along and figuring out where that matches. And of course, where it matches, you can see that it's actively applying that new color grade to where it matches. I'm just going to stop now because we have enough to see that that's working, right? You can see it go away. Okay. So now that's one method of Magic Mask. That's Magic Mask Object, where I've just drawn a selection around it. Well, this is another object of Magic Mask. I've drawn a selection around the car. And what's important to notice about the way that Magic Mask works in this case around the car is that, as you'll probably see as this truck starts to obscure it, the track itself doesn't lose that it was tracking the car. Here we've decided that this blonde woman has strawberry blonde hair, so we've made the stroke visible. In fact, you can kind of see, when I hover over, you can see when I turn this little preview on and off for the mask opacity, that this is the effect of the change, and the mask was being shown, right? And so as she moves across, you can see that the track itself has found what is her hair, but is not her head. Okay, and that's because we chose, hair as the person's feature to show here. We showed this probably the most, I think, when we debuted this feature. But what's important to see here is that while I guess I didn't have the thing enabled so you can see it, so let me just stop. Let's turn that on. You can see the selection that was created and how it's tracked this horse. And let's go ahead and track him again. So you can see this actually functioning. He's obscured, right? The person on horseback is obscured by the rhino. And Magic Mask knows that the rhino is not my selection, and so has chosen to avoid selecting the rhino, even though they've intersected. Okay, Magic Mask is another neural engine feature. Here's a use of the depth map, which is kind of a VFX favored tool because depth map, if I show you the depth map preview, right, the depth difference between the foreground and background elements. Now, this was not shot on a green screen, but in the depth map control, if I were to, say, isolate my target depth, you can see that I have full control over picking what area I need to pull as my key. So in this case, she's shot against the background, and we wanted to create some greater, depth of separation for her between the white light behind her. Then depth map has done that. Depth map has focused on creating a map for just her, so that I can go ahead and change the effect of her interview right there with the depth map. Now, this one's really fun to show off, actually. This is the surface tracker. And the surface tracker, if I just, play this clip back, well, maybe, here we go. So this shirt obviously did not start out life with a Resolve logo on it, right? Here it is. Here's the shirt. Because the surface tracker has done a few things. One, this is the original shirt, okay? And as you can see, it says, Elephant Ranch, whatever this restaurant is, okay? So in the bounds, what we've done, let me turn on my Open Effects overlay so you can see. I found a good solid frame like this one. I created a boundary around it with the bounds tool. The mesh tool then decides how many things it needs to track in that mesh to include all the fabric and distortion. And then we actually use the track features. And the track features, front and back from this, because we're starting somewhere in the middle, track features track this deformation. And the result is now the overlay outputting warp input 2, okay, because this surface tracker is taking this element to input 2. So warp input 2 onto the blank, okay, surface tracker, the patch for the black, and then the grain after the fact to make it really sing. So that's it. We've tracked it, we've subbed in a replacement logo, and you can see that everything deforms and warps and distorts like a t-shirt would as it's moving with his body, okay. Surface tracker is also in use here. You probably saw this shot before when I was showing the media pool, and you can see this this model right here clearly doesn't have anything on her sweater. Maybe you can't see it because the thumbnail's too small, but there's nothing on the sweater, okay? But we're tracking that sweater and we're adding this little element. So that's what this looks like, right? We have distorted and tracked and attached, all right? So let's look at that. Surface tracker with the tools on, you can see there the surface tracker is actually showing us what it's doing, okay? And it's compositing this checkerboard element over the sweater. We've done surface tracker again here, but we've done it for post makeup, right? So I've taken a good frame, and then on that frame I've drawn some eyeshadow, okay? So let's turn that off, right? No eyeshadow, eyeshadow on. And then because I was able to track that with the surface tracker, there's the boundary, there's the mesh it created, the track is already saved, and you can see the tracking keyframes, right, as I navigate through them in this view, okay? And the result is that it's warped onto her face, so that as she moves around, the eyeshadow stays in place. Right. And then I did something silly just because, this woman clearly doesn't have a tribal cheek tattoo, but I thought that would be kind of interesting to see, what if she did, right? And you can see I used the same tool set here. I've simply tracked her face. So again, surface tracker, boundaries, let's go ahead and toggle that on, right? And I've used, in this case, the boundary of a hole. I've added a hole point. So you can add boundaries, holes, right? You can delete these elements. So in this case, I didn't want to track the eye closing as a distortion of the cheek. And then it's generated a mesh. I've added this new tribal thing and tracked it. And the result is that now she's a member of my tribe. Okay, this is our cheek tattoo tribe. Okay. So you can tell that it's attached. It's locked pretty well. So those are just some of the crazy new neural engine features that you're going to get in DaVinci Resolve Studio 18.6.5. I've got a few others like object removal. These are kind of the older features that we had in the past. In this case, I'm just going to get rid of that transition that we don't need. But we released these here. Let's go ahead and kill that as well. Just so you can see, I just decided to remove the base. Right? Let's loop the whole thing so you can see it. Right? Second base is gone. Here. Okay. So that's done again in the color page with the option here called object removal. So there's the mask overlay, right? Toggle on and off. So you can see that it's basically creating a background and cloning it out. All right. So color page object removal, face refinement and beauty. These are tools that we've had in there for a little longer, and you've probably seen them at work as well, right? So in this case, here's face refinement on this woman and off. Should be pretty demonstrative there when it toggles off, okay? So that's the neural engine again, tracking the face itself when we're in the color page and we're looking at the clip itself, this face refinement. If I show the face refinement overlay, that's when you can see what the neural engine has found that represents her face and has tracked it. And in fact, it's opened up all these attributes for us to change, and we've changed some of them, like the forehead smoothing, and the eye bag smoothing, and eye sharpening and lighting. That's all done here. I think I've gone over and above what you all might need for these amazing examples, and hopefully I haven't gone too far over everyone's head today. But just wanted to be able to show you some of the basic features that you might encounter first as an editor inside Resolve 18.6.5, which is the current version, and of course, some of the Resolve Studio 18.6.5 features like the neural engine features for face refinement, and all the ways that I've shown you the surface tracker and the object removal and magic mask as well. But I'd like to thank Keycode for having me here today.